Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we'll be painting Detective Bullocks from the Batman miniature game 3rd edition box, both the old starter box and the new starter box. But this is my favorite frumpy detective from Batman animated series in the comic books. But to paint this guy, we primed him standard Mechanicus gray, and we used mostly P3 and some army painters, but let's go through the list. So P3 solid gold, Carnal Pink, Rucksack Tan, Bloodraker brown, Menouth white highlight, Sanguine highlight, Necrotite green, Frostbite, okay, and army painter uniform gray, Barbarian Flesh, Kobold skin, pure red, matte black. And then I used Vallejo Glossy Black, because that's like how I like to paint the rims there. It gives them a little extra shine. Citadel Trollslayer orange. And I used 2 Citadel shades, Reikland Fleshshade and Nuln Oil shade. So let's go ahead and get started on this guy. Now we've primed the model standard Mechanicus gray. And now I'm going to use some P3's Bloodraker brown. And this is going to be for his hat and his trench coat. So we can be rough at this point, because the first thing we're put on. We got a lot of area to cover here. Next, we're going to take some Army Painter Uniform Gray. And I'm going to put this is going to be for his trousers. Want it a little bit lighter than the Mechanicus. And I got to clean up from where it went off the rails with the brown. And then we also want it for the band of his hat, his fedora. That's why I need my tiny brush. I'm just going to run it . It's actually sculpted in here, so we just move it like that. Now I'm going to let the brown and the gray dry. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to take some Citadel Trollslayer orange. I'm going to paint the Joker fish. Put down there. So I'm just looking at the scales of the body. So just one coat in here. Don't need to do the face or the fins. Now I'm going to take some P3 Frostbite blue. I'm going to do all the areas I want white. So this is a very light blue. And I'm going to do it on his shirt. I'm going to get his coffee mug. And I'm going to get the face of the Joker fish. Now, as we wait for the Frostbite to dry, I'm going to take some P3 Necrotite Green, and this is going to be for the Joker fish. So we're going to put it on his fins. At this point, we got to be careful. Not to overlap with the orange too much. Now we're going to use P3's Sanguine Highlight, and that is going to be for the tie here. And we're going to use our sharp brush. Let's see, I'm going to get most of the paint off. What I'm going to do is try to trace little lips, the Sanguine Highlight, along the Joker fish. I can use the tip of the brush with the side of the tip, so I just get a smooth edge. Let's see where his lip is. Now I'm going to paint his donut, and I'm going to use Carnal Pink. So just take a little tiny brush here. Okay, give him a nice pink donut. Next I'm going to use some Army Painter Matte Black. And we're going to do two areas. We're going to do his shoes. And we're going to do his badge holder and his belt. Notice he's got pants loops, and I'm going to leave those gray. So very delicately paint around those. If you hit him, it's no big deal. We'll touch him up later. For the next step, we're going to add some Nuln Oil, or as call it, Talent in a Bottle. And for this, I'm going to need a brush that I have messed up. So this one used to be a nice brush, but it got damaged. So I'm going to moisten it a little bit. I'm going to take some Nuln Oil and just slop this thing on. Alright, now I want a bunch on these stones, more than I put on the rest of it. Just a little bit on the fish. The underside doesn't really matter that much, no one's going to see it. You see right there, we're already getting a little character in it. Now we're going to have to let this guy dry for a while. You know what? I want some more Nuln Oil down here on the stones. There we go. Now that's going to take a while to dry. And then we'll come back when he is dry. Excellent. Now we're going to use some Barbarian Flesh from Army Painter. A little bit of this in the palette, and we're gonna obviously use this for the skin tones. Now that the Nuln Oil is dried, notice we got enough Nuln Oil in there in the coffee cup. Don't need to paint that black. So starting with our tiny brush, because we don't actually have that much to paint, but we got to be very careful here not to get it on the other colors. So we got the hands and the face. Now I'm going to take some P3 solid gold, and that is going to be for his detective's badge, which he wears around the belt here. So we don't need that much. Now I'm going to take some P3 Rucksack Tan. I'm going to put this in a couple different places. So we see he took a bite out of his donut. So I'm going to stabilize my hand with my pinky. And I'm going to paint the cake donut part, that bite. Then he also has a cigar. I'll just use a little bit of the rucksack to get the cigar to stand out, since I've already finished most of the face. Just gotta be careful to get around the donut and hit it so I'm not touching the face. Now I'm gonna put on another shade here. I'm gonna use Reikland Fleshshade. So I've shaken it up. Alright, so this I'm going to put on his gold for his detective's badge. And then we're going to put it on skin here. Just a light coating. Then on the cigar, that'll darken up brown. I'm going to do on the hands too. Try not to touch anything else with the shade. Now I'm going to take some P3 Menouth White Highlight, and we're going to do coffee cup. And first, I'm going to dip my brush. I'm going to wipe a lot of it off, and then I'm just going to take the flat of the brush and hit against the end of the cigar. Then I'm going to take the rest of this and I'm going to create the light reflection. So it gives it that shiny porcelain look to it. When I do these light streaks, I'm just going to move up and down. And one straight, smooth line. Then dip my brush again, and just wipe off a little bit, and we'll get this lip. So you gotta imagine the light's coming down, hitting the top of the porcelain. We want straight reflections. There we go. Now I'm not going to punch up his shirt because I want his shirt to look a little dirty and make it look like the coffee mug is of a different material. Now I'm going to put a slight shine on his shoes, just taking the brush, and you see I'm going like that, just whoop. Little hint of white polish to it. You got very little paint, so I'm doing multiple runs at it. There we go. Now we're going to go to Army Painter's Pure Red. We just need a little bit of this. I'm gonna just take the side of the tip and just hit a little bit on the tie, mostly around the edges. Around the knot. There we go. Now I'm going to touch up the skin. I'm going to use some Army Painter's Kobold skin. This is very pale. But what I do is just get a tiny bit on the brush. I'll do like the nose, some of the cheekbones, fatty jowl, just kind of drag the brush, tapping it. little bit on the fingers. Do that and shade him up to taste. Now I've got the skin done, I'm going to go back to Army Painter Matte Black. I got a little bit in my palette, and you see he's got you can see a touch of his hair coming down underneath his hat. So we're just going to clean that up. It's pretty simple. I'll use this as a chance. I got a touch of gold on the belt. So I go fix that up. Speaking of touching up the gold, let's get a little bit more P3 gold, and we'll just do the highlighted parts of the badge. A little more touch there. And while I'm touching up stuff, I want to get some more of the Carnal Pink. Let's just get some of the places, kind of like I did with the coffee cup, but we'll just give a little touch more pink. There we go. Now you can see I've taken him off his little paint handle. And that's because I'm going to use Vallejo Glossy Black. And we're going to paint this trim. But I use this particular brush for that one because I want to kind of candy coat it. There it is. So I use a Citadel large dry brush. So get it nice and wet, and what I do is nice thick coat, and we spin the model around.